It is 8:41 Newstalk Sauga 960 Raw. Mike Richards, as we get into something a little different, but I mean, look, this is the certainly here in Ontario we've had great weather. If you're going to Manitoba, and I suggest that you do, and guess what? From Ontario, this is what I found out. I can make it basically. I can get to Winnipeg in like a day and a half, if you really want to. You can leave the GTA and you would hit Thunder Bay in about 14 hours. And then the next day you get up. Of course, I chose February to do it. Oh, that was a great choice. That was some good thinking right there, because I was actually on my way to Calgary. And then there I am midday. I'm in the Peg. So if you want to go and you want to take a day trip, for instance, or in and around Manitoba, we've got the man for you right here to do it. Also from the CBC as well. Bartley Kives is joining us. Good morning, Bartley.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing? It's actually Kives. It rhymes with Beavis, as in butthead.
Well, that's a good way of putting it. Kives. Okay. So what nationality is that? Kives.
Eastern European Jewish. Probably. Yeah, probably Moldavia and Eastern Romania back in the back before the good times started.
So even your name is interesting.
Wow.
Right? So you might be the world's, or at least Manitoba's, most interesting man.
You know what? None of my friends would consider that. They'd all say long-winded, loudmouth, annoying. They use a different adjective. Different adjective. But I gotta warn you, if you want to come to Winnipeg right now from east of Thunder Bay, Manitoba will still make you quarantine for 14 days.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I guess that's true too, isn't it?
It is that we opened everything up in Manitoba to the rest of Canada. Well, not true. We opened it up to the western provinces and territories, and Ontario up to Terrace Bay. I don't know what they did in Terrace. Well, no, they wanted to include all of Thunder Bay. So Kenora's cool, Dryden's cool, Thunder Bay is cool, Terrace Bay is not cool.
No.
Sault Ste. Marie, not cool.
Yeah.
Toronto, no, we're afraid.
Right.
We're afraid of people from Toronto and Montreal, like you guys are of Americans coming up.
So true. So true.
Well, it's better safe than sorry. But, for a lot of people, I always say, certainly in this area where they have not been west of Oakville, or Mississauga itself, where we're located, there's just so much to see in a province that has a lot of beauty. But I'll be honest, Bartley, a lot of people don't know about it. They would be, certainly from this part of the world, be very naive to actually what exists, because in that province you got a lot of it.
I like the title when I put together my guidebook. It's called Daytrippers Guide to Manitoba. Part of it was there was no guidebook to Manitoba at all. Like Lonely Planet's got a guide, a sub-guide for pretty much every part of North America except Manitoba and Saskatchewan. A lot of tourists are like, it's the flyover province, You think about people, it doesn't have Toronto, it doesn't have the Rocky Mountains, it doesn't have Montreal's bar scene, which right now probably is scary as heck. But anyway, the point being, so I myself wanted to put together, I was like, okay, I got a weekend. What do I want to do now? Wait, I don't actually know. So when I first did the first edition of this a while back, it was like, I wanted to actually know what was in Manitoba. And it's got a lot going on. But it's different from most provinces in that you have most of the population in Winnipeg. And then outside of Winnipeg, it's to the west is agricultural, and to the north and east, it's forest. It's wilderness.
So the name of the book is A Day Tripper's Guide to Manitoba. It's from Great Plains Publications. Bartley, as far as, obviously this is unfair. I'm born and raised in Winnipeg, lived there the first 25 years of my life, and I return multiple times a year. But a lot of people look at Manitoba and outside of Winnipeg itself, Churchill gets a lot of tourists just because of the polar bears and so forth. Is that still... Obviously, it may not happen in the middle of July or early August or anything.
Actually,
like that, or does it?
Churchill in the summer is fantastic. In fact, I recommend Churchill in the summer over the short, brief polar bear season in late October, early November. The polar bear season is there because the bears there, they're on, the ice melts there in the summer and they wait on land to go on. But in the summer, there's beluga whales, tons of them. And they're all in the estuary of the Churchill River right on Hudson Bay. And you can go out on a boat and get relatively close to them. In Canada, you're no longer allowed to chase whales, but beluga whales actually come up to boats for reasons marine biologists aren't sure. They're interested in it. Some of them think it's like just an enrichment. Some of them think they're curious about people. But also, Churchill is a really weird town. It's an end of the line, end of the railroad town on Hudson Bay. There's so much going on up there. There's all these, there's a plane crash, a plane that's sitting intact just outside of town. There's a wreck of a ship that's just sitting offshore that you can walk to at low tide with a shotgun in case there is a polar bear, or at least a bear banger, or at least a set of eyes. There's a really interesting town. It's like a piece of the Arctic in Manitoba. And I really recommend people going up there now that the rail line's been sold and it's actually running on time. Fastest way to get there. I mean, Churchill's expensive flight from Winnipeg, but you can drive to Thompson, Manitoba, and then take the train. And it's only 13 hours. That thing does not go. It goes over permafrost, okay? It's the only train in Canada you can get seasick on. So, but Churchill is really cool in the summer, and they're really happy to have people in the summer, and they have quite a summer season, and also all the it's like the tundra, so it blooms with wildflowers. It's pretty cool. You just still want to be careful walking around because there could be the stray polar bear. Yeah. No one's been killed there in decades by a polar bear.
Well, they used to say, if you're going running in, so I'm talking about Alberta now. So if you're running in Canmore, if you're running in around Banff, they say, well, make sure you wear a bell. I said, well, why are you doing that? Well, it keeps the bears away. No, it doesn't. I think what it does, it says dinner is being served, and I really would not feel like running in the backwoods with a bell on. Is this true?
Bells are really good for black bears, and that's the most common bear in Canada. Black bears don't like people. Black bears rarely ever attack people. They're scared of people, and if you can tell, if most black bear problems are when there's a mother with their cubs rather, and yeah, actually bear bells do work. You want to avoid a grizzly bear, you go with a group of 4 people or more. Grizzlies, there's very few recorded cases in history of a grizzly attacking a large group. If you run into a polar bear in the wild, basically the only thing you can do is put down your clothes, your pack or something, because the bear might be so curious it'll investigate it and not you, but otherwise you're basically dead. But polar bears are really, really scary, but we have, we've got grizzly bears coming back to northern Manitoba now. They're up near Churchill. They've been seen. And we have black grizzly and polar bears all together in the same place, but the black bears are like the scared little cousins that are running away, those other 2 guys. But Manitoba, when getting back to the original question though, it's like, so Winnipeg's got a lot going on culturally. There's like, it's a city it's kind of like the world's largest small city. And I say that, and David will recognize this, in that almost because Winnipeg is so geographically isolated, like the nearest city to Winnipeg larger than Winnipeg is Minneapolis, St. Paul. That's 8 hours away. Nearest Canadian city larger than Winnipeg, that's Calgary. That's 13 hours away. There's a lot of interconnections in Winnipeg, so it feels like a small town, but the cultural scene, like art galleries, museums and stuff, especially recent attractions that opened up, there's the architecture of the Canadian Museum of Human Rights. There is the Journey to Churchill. If you don't want to make it a Churchill, the Journey to Churchill exhibit at the zoo where polar bears swim around you. You don't actually have to get close to them. At the Winnipeg Art Gallery, they're about to complete this Inuit art gallery, the only collection in the world actually of just Inuit art. The Winnipeg Art Gallery is not the largest collection, but largely it sits in storage. Getting outside of Winnipeg, doing outdoor stuff, that's what I like to do, and also sometimes getting to your old neck of the woods, Mike, in northwestern Ontario there. Just be able to, like in Toronto, you want to get out of town, you get on the weekend, and then you're stuck in traffic for who knows how long trying to get to Muskoka, right?
Yep.
Everybody owns everything there. There's all this. There's a lot of people are going to head all the way up to Algonquin to get away from, or up north of, at least north of Lake Huron. In Manitoba, mostly you can get away from the city in less than an hour going north. So there's that advantage to the wilderness here. And yeah, it's boreal forest to the east, and to the west there's different prairie. There's Riding Mountain, which isn't a mountain. It's like a little plateau, but we get what we can in Manitoba. We'll call it a mountain. And
I always say to my friends here in Ontario, Bartley, that look at the map of Manitoba. There's a lot of water, and there's a lot of great cottage life and fishing life and outdoor life just outside of the city. And you kind of nailed it there as far as talking about getting away. It's only an hour away, 2 hours away. Sometimes if you want to go further, but you don't really have to, do you?
You don't have to. And I like to say that Winnipeg is really in the middle of water too anyway. Like, this isn't like dry land that occasionally floods. This is a floodplain that's just temporarily dry, made by people. But yeah, I mean, this area, I also have a chapter on Lake of the Woods because like Kenora is like Venice, man. Like,
yeah,
you can roll up to the Safeway in your motorboat and park at the boat parking. Domino's Pizza delivers on the water in Lake of the Woods. Like, and hey, the OPP will come and pull you over on the water.
You know, the one thing I remember as I was traveling there, if you're just south of Winnipeg, you're on the Trans-Canada, and as I'm looking to sort of, it was like a bypass, and then you go through Brandon and then all the way to Calgary. But there is, I believe it's a street, and it's in French. It had so many consonants in it. My eyes started to burn as I was going by. What is the name in French that is on one of those highway signs that you would take? It was a road or a street, and it had a lot of letters. I mean, a lot of letters. And when you're not used to the French language, where you're reading in the GTA, you're not seeing it that much. Centreville is about as fancy as we get in Toronto. You know,
people forget like there are 50,000 French speakers in Winnipeg, and that is not the largest French community outside of Quebec. Actually, Edmonton area has even more, but they're spread out. In St. Boniface and Winnipeg, they're mostly in there. And there's a lot of there's a lot of French-only towns in Manitoba still. Some are Métis, most are French Canadian, and it isn't as spoken. Like working as a reporter, every now and then, you run into an elderly couple in St. Boniface that have no English, and it's amazing in Winnipeg because they're born and raised here. And people forget, French founded Manitoba with Indigenous people. English people were kind of like, yeah, we want to be here too. But so there's still, I don't know to which street which town you're referring to, but there's like, we don't have, I mean, let's face it, Quebec driving in from New Brunswick has the best highway sign in the whole country that when you pass by the directions to St. Louis de Ha with like exclamation points. You kind of wonder, like, I want to know, actually, I don't know how that town got its name. No, we don't have the town names they have in Newfoundland either. But,
Yeah.
So I don't know which one, but there is.
I'll have to think of it too. I'm trying to think of it myself. I can't think of it, Bartley.
But French isn't even the second largest language in Manitoba after English, and it's probably now like the top 5 languages here include Tagalog, which is
right.
the most common language in the Philippines.
Yeah.
There's a lot of German speakers in southern Manitoba, and more coming all the time. There's big Mennonite and Hutterite communities.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ukrainian, Polish,
Ukrainian and Polish, but it's and so I don't even know if French makes a top 5 anymore. There's like 80,000 people from the Philippines in Winnipeg.
That's incredible. That is incredible, and as is the province. I said it's got its own beauty that most people don't take the time. I think in this country, especially in the GTA. It's a word they see on the map, and as you said, it's a province that you fly over. It's a shame because when we start talking about things that should unify our country, there's a huge ignorance, I think, in Southern Ontario to whether, and if you're talking about PEI or Nova Scotia, New Brunswick.
I think making fun of Winnipeg helps unify the country. People in Southern Ontario, they love to make. They've never been here, but they want to make fun of Winnipeg. And there's actually, the origin of that joke comes down to propaganda from a century ago. It's truly amazing. You go back 100 years, and Winnipeg was like the fastest growing city in North America. And people in Toronto were freaked out. Newspapers ran anti-Manitoba propaganda in the Toronto papers.
Really?
And they were trying to build this rail port at what's now basically near York Factory, way down on the Nelson River. Before Churchill was Churchill, they tried to build this huge rail port. There were people in Toronto writing anti-screeds about the horrible labor conditions. Anyway, the point being, geography was impossible. They couldn't build this rail port. Plus, the First World War happened. But the propaganda about Winnipeg, how it is this full of open sewers, and the sex trade is out of control, and it's a den of iniquity, and there's too many men and not enough women. That reputation is actually persist. Like when you wonder why, where do these Winnipeg jokes come from? Now, some of it's just like people making fun of a smaller city, the same way Winnipeggers make fun of Regina. And every time Winnipeggers make fun of Regina,
Yeah, that I'm
I go,
used to.
guys, you're no
Yes.
better than Torontonians making fun of Winnipeg. Like, we love to make fun of Regina. Regina's just a small Winnipeg. We can't make fun of Regina.
Bartley, we gotta go.
You can when you're a Bomber fan. You can when
Yeah,
you're a
Bomber
Bomber fan.
Rider rivalry is great, but-
And,
Oh, wait,
and I think
is there CFL this year? No.
oh, I hope so.
We don't know. Well, I'm holding my breath.
I think I know the name, Mike. La Jamodier.
La Gimaudière, or we call
Yes.
it La Jamodier.
La.
We can't just do English or French pronunciation. We want to mix them together. Yeah, people call it portage here, not portage. But we don't call it La Gimaudière, but we call it La Jamodier. Unless you're
La
French, then you do call it La Gimaudière.
You do have a flair there, Bartley. I see what your friends are saying.
I think they're on
Yes,
something.
it's the Moldavian French part of the family.
Bartley, thanks so much. It's been a real pleasure talking with you. And hey, maybe sometime we get to sit around and have a beer in, I don't know, the Paw. How about that?
Oh,
The Paw. You know what?
Yeah.
I am drinking a cup. I want last thing here. This is Miss the Paw, a
Oh.
restaurant. It's got like from the Paw.
Look
This
how we
cup.
tie this. We tie it all in. This is how we do it on the
That
show.
is the cool little cafe. It's covered in all this kitsch and all these old historic things about the Paw. But the Paw, yeah.
There you go.
7 hours northwest of Winnipeg, on the way to Flin Flon,
that's
when
right.
you're on-
Well, thank you so much for that. I know we got to run. Appreciate it. Once again, and the book is called
A Day Tripper's Guide to Manitoba, Exploring Canada's Undiscovered Province. You can find it in the Toronto area on Amazon.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Bartley. Appreciate it.
Take care.